Hi everyone. So this is my third video in our series of examining if demographic factors influence 311 requests. 311 requests are things like graffiti removal, trash disposal, streetlight repair, things of that nature. As a reminder, the primary purpose of this particular video series is to examine if socioeconomically advantaged neighborhoods make more 311 requests, or if socioeconomically advantaged neighborhoods have their 311 request handled more quickly. As I mentioned at the end of the age video, the two links you see on this slide have been provided in the description below. So if you want to see where my numbers come from, feel free to click on the URLs provided. Now, for the third video in the series, we are specifically looking at race and its impact on 311 requests. Now, given how race has sadly become a hotbed topic in our day and age, I will not be providing any hypothesis regarding race. I will leave that to you, the viewers who watch this video, to come up with your own hypothesis if you want to. As a disclaimer, I'm not going to advocate any type of politics or ideologies in this video. I have a job, and that job is to simply look at the numbers and the facts provided and to draw conclusions from the data given. If you are offended from this video, then that's on you and not on me. So let's switch gears and go to Tableau. Now, here on this tableau, I put race groups against each of the neighborhood councils. So if you wanted to, let's say, see which neighborhood had the highest particular race group, feel free to do so. I'll also provide links to this Tableau slide on the description in the video as well. So feel free to click on that. So here we have race groups divided into 7 sections. There's white, black, American Indian, and American Indian has been abbreviated as AMER space IND. And then you have the fourth race group, which is Asian, Pacific Islanders, which has been abbreviated as PI. You have the other race group, and you have the biracial race group. Now, if you look at the bottom, you'll notice that the x-axis signifies the population of that particular race group. If you notice, whites has the largest in terms of the x-axis, meaning that most of the neighborhood councils, their white population is higher than the other race groups. Asians would be the second highest, which as it goes to about 40K. And then the third one would be other. And after the other, the fourth highest would be the black race group. Thus, I think what we can conclude is that the majority of people in the Los Angeles region are probably white, followed by Asian. Now, just for clarity, the other race group here are basically individuals who do not identify as as any of the other categories. So they don't identify as white, black, American Indian, Asian, Pacific Islander, or biracial. So that's where others would be. So I would imagine something like Middle Eastern could possibly be there, but I was actually thinking of Hispanics in particular who don't identify as either white or American Indian. I suspect that they would be in the other category. So now let's see the regression. Let's see the regression and see if there is a possible correlation between race and the 311 request count, or the sheer amount of 311 requests. Here, interestingly, the other race category had the highest R squared value. Had the highest R squared value of 58%. The American Indian category had the second highest R squared value of 52%. And also, Uh, Also of note is that biracial had also a significant R squared value of 37%. Interestingly enough, Asians also had a they had R they had a I think I should point out that Asians, their p value, unfortunately, was uh, it was way too high. It's higher than the acceptable p value of 5%, and so I can't use this particular graph to determine if there is correlation. So there is no. I can't say if the I can't say that there is no correlation between Asians and the 311 request count, simply because, again, the value is the p value says that the graph is not statistically significant, so that's inconclusive. The other race, I mean, not the other race, the white, black, and Pacific Islander, they had acceptable p values, but their R square values are so low that that there's basically no correlation between that specific race group and the count of 311 requests. So if there's any takeaway from this graph, it would be that the other race group, American Indian, and to a lesser extent biracial, do have some correlation between that between that race group, that as well as the sheer count of 311 requests. Now, if you remember, the second purpose of this graph of our video series is the speed at which 311 requests were resolved. So when we run the regression as is, unfortunately, the majority of the graphs, they have their p-values higher than the acceptable threshold of 5%. The only exception to this was the American Indian. So American Indian, it was about 0.006, so that's really low. And then, unfortunately, even though its p-value was acceptable, its R squared was only about 8%, or 7.5%, I should say. And so I can say, at least with some certainty, that American Indians, the speed at which the 311 requests are resolved, there's basically no correlation. Now, if as you saw in the other previous two videos, race and population, there is this Los Angeles outlier, downtown Los Angeles outlier. If I remove it, I mean, it's with the hope that, hey, it might help the p-value, and so the graphs become statistically significant enough to draw a conclusion from. And so, unfortunately, again, the p-values were still much too high to be statistically significant, and so we can't draw conclusions from them. The only exception to that was the other race group. Their p-value was improved as it was below the threshold, and thus, but unfortunately, even though the p-value improved, again, the R squared value was still much too low to indicate any type of correlation. So the only thing we can really conclude from this regression is that other race group and the American Indian race group, they have no correlation with themselves and how quickly the 311 requests are resolved. So yeah. Okay, so thank you for watching my video, and join me next time as we go over education and see how it impacts 311 requests. Thank you.